Hello,
Ladies
we're
and gentlemen, boys
live.
and girls of all ages, this is a special podcast.
This
Yeah, yeah,
Independence Day edition of BS Busters, I believe.
yeah. We're literally just throwing some stuff out there because, it's the 4th of July. All my guests are gone. I cooked a ton of food, and now, there's nothing else better to do except, talk a little bit of BS. So BS Busters is back for a little special 4th of July cast. We're just, you know, uh, uh,
Mm, all over the place.
Yeah, it's going to be very random. We're going after stuff that we may have wanted to mention, but we forgot about, like that podcast where I forgot about, you know, a game crossover that would have been awesome, and I just kind of forgot. So, you know, we're here. So, who wants to go first? This is
I should go first.
impromptu. Okay, then.
This is because there's this gaming related news we haven't discussed from Sunday, in which Bethesda is suing Warner Brothers and Behavior Interactive over a Westworld mobile game.
Yeah.
It directly ripped off the code used in Fallout Shelter. And the funny and how they know this is because it has a bug that they know that is also present in Fallout Shelter.
Fair enough. This is the first time that Bethesda is using bugs to their very own advantage to prove that a game has been that code was stolen from them. Even their code for their mobile games are buggy as hell. I don't
For once,
know.
they can actually say a bug actually them coin.
Yeah, I could see it now. They're like, wait a second, I know this bug. This bug is very familiar. It's our bug. Like here's the thing. Like I think this is true. I think Warner Brothers is going to settle out of court and give Bethesda a chunk of money because Warner Brothers
Hopefully,
publishing.
they'll have an acquittal for sure, because that embarrassing thing to have to go through all that and have another what was it, chaotics
They're
moment.
probably gonna settle out of court. And Warner Brothers is probably going to pay a fine, and they're probably going to have to, because basically Warner Brothers Publishing, if anyone knows anything about Warner Brothers Publishing, this is the company that releases that has games put out that are broken as hell, and if the money isn't there to get the game out, to fix it, they'll just cancel. They'll just say, well, that's all. We're not working anymore on this game, and f you, you're on your own, basically. So people. It's like people have forgotten Arkham
Arkham
Knight.
Asylum.
No, Arkham Knight. Arkham
Knight.
Asylum and Arkham City were actually pretty good, but Arkham Knight, ooh, damn. That game on PC is rough. It's still a broken piece of shit. And the console version is not that good either.
Although the PC Master Race will tell you that the PC version was sabotaged, and they could have run better than the console.
Well, it was sabotaged, and it could have run better on consoles. Because the thing you have to realize is that, generally speaking, if a game is running on a console, especially consoles as they are now for the last two gens that are more PC than consoles, yeah, it probably could run better on a console. Especially a game that's not like a Nintendo game or something like that, where Nintendo builds their games to run on their consoles or their handhelds. Like, they're built from the ground up for that hardware. Most of the games that are made by third-party publishers are made to
They
be
want to
portable.
transfer from everything.
Yeah, it's made to be easy to port. So yeah, and the game was sabotaged because basically the people who bought it on PC were the smallest market, and the game was a broken piece of shit on PC. Like right now, you can get Arkham's Knight on PC for like under $10 on sale. It's not worth it because the game is still a broken piece of shit. And because Warner Brothers basically said, okay, we made our money, we're going to get out now. But what I'm saying is that they're cheap. Warner Brothers is really, 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 really cheap. And so it's not surprising to me as a games publisher that they probably went to these people and said, here's this much money. This game needs to come out by July. You have 4 months to make it. And they're like, well, we worked on this other game that has a similar concept. We can just use this code because we worked on it. Maybe someone did something unscrupulous and they were on their time crunch. And so, I mean, they probably did do it. I'm not happy about it, but I mean, you know, it is what it is.
Does that mean that Mortal Kombat X and Injustice 2 were reused assets from the last?
They probably did reuse assets from those games. I mean, you have to remember, NetherRealm Studios reuse the same engine for like 4 Mortal Kombat games. Like all the Mortal Kombat games of the 6th gen are running on the same engine. All the Mortal Kombat games in the 7th gen are using the same engine and the same assets. So it's like, I mean, they're cheap. And look, listen, you can't get too angry because a lot of video game companies
that there's a difference between cheap and El Cheapo cheap.
You mean cheap and cutting corners?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of companies like reuse assets. I mean, if you look at Smash Brothers Ultimate, a lot of the assets are being reused from Smash Brothers 4.
True, but I was saying it's so cheap that you basically try to save every penny in a bed.
Could be. I don't know, but anyway, as I was saying, yeah. But Warner Brothers, I mean, you know, they're like, okay. From what I understand, the studio that made the game probably used some of that code because it is kind of it's too much of a coincidence that this game uses a lot of the same aesthetics as Fallout Shelter and even has the same bug as an earlier build of Fallout Shelter. That's too many coincidences. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the third coincidence is that they're the same studio that was outsourced to make Fallout Shelter. You know what I mean? That's 3 things that are too coincidental for it to be. Well, it just happened that way. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, I mean, well, there is no other hand. I mean, basically,
there's no 2 ways around it, right?
Yeah, I mean, they probably did the shit. So I'm not happy about it, but what are you going to do, you know?
So, moving on to another set of video game related news. Some kid committed suicide after playing Doki Doki Literature Club.
Wow.
What?
That's kind of rough.
I'll post the link to the article.
I'm sorry. Hearing stuff like that just makes me say, is somebody?
What? You kind of cut out in that out of there.
Something like that makes me wonder if.
I'm sorry. You have to repeat yourself. You're cutting in and out again.
Yeah.
Something like that. Wonder if somebody is thinking right.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, like here's the thing: you have to have a certain level. There has to be something going on in your head to where you think about, I'm going to kill myself. I mean, you have to have something wrong to kill anybody, but then to kill yourself, that's even more heinous. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. Nothing we can do about it. Except, you know,
trying to get rid of these pop-up messages before I could, because it's blocking the way of posting the link to the group chat. Not sure how I'll finish.
I mean, I don't know what to say except, I mean, you know, that's pretty messed up.
Ugh.
Just click it. I'll just click
I saw
it.
a commercial for Teen Titans Go movie. Ugh.
Yeah.
Took a bit.
Here's the link. So, reading through, it says head teachers at schools across Sutherland were issued with a warning through City Council urging families to be on their guard against the game Doki Doki Literature Club because one of their students committed suicide after playing a game. The Manchester Coroner's Office, which investigates the death of a teenager, wanted to highlight the concerns to local authorities across the country. Although at the very beginning, it clearly states that it's not suitable for children or for those who are easily disturbed. Initially, it's a psychological horror game disguised as a dating sim featuring cute female figures. It would only to turn completely dark as one by one each of those girls commit suicide under the influence of one particular female character.
Huh. Well, that's fucked up. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like the Virgin Suicides, a noir movie that's really fucked up. I don't like. Let's see. Once again, people are going to sit there and try and blame video games and all that type of stuff. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've played games that were disturbing that didn't make me want to do violent acts to others or myself. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, your thoughts? I don't know.
And it says here that the boy was 15 years old.
Well, you know, I mean, I hate to say this, but kids today aren't as
traumatized.
Well, aren't as tough as we were when kids in my age group. You know, they just aren't. They aren't as tough. You know,
lower fortitude.
Just not as because I mean I played some shit that was like, this is fucked up, and I never was like, oh man, you know, I've played some disturbing games like I Have No Mouth Yet I Must Scream, or Shadow Man, which is pretty fucked up. The original Clock Tower games, those are pretty fucked up.
Eternal Darkness.
Eternal Darkness has a really good hook, but I never was like, oh my god, this is so disturbing. But I mean, they're games that have really interesting hooks that are like, oh man, that's fucked up. And I never was like, man, I'm gonna kill myself because this game is, I don't know.
And it's also hitting. It also got mentioned on BBC News with doing your typical video games are violent video games are committing real life violence or something. All that nonsense. Like we're going back to the 90s.
Well, I mean, like I said, there have been numerous studies that prove violent video games don't make people more prone to violence. So, I mean, maybe this kid was a one-off. I don't know.
Right. This is the only case where that game has caused someone to commit suicide.
Well, I mean, like, okay. Like, I remember when Trauma Center from Atlas was a really big game on the DS, and it was ported to the Wii. And that game was really hot, but no one was going around cutting people open trying to do surgery on people. You know what I mean?
No.
So I can't say that because someone was playing a game that they should, you know, I mean, there is a conversation to be, well, there is a conversation to be had, but it's not going to be about, you know, oh my God, someone said this, let me kill somebody, let me kill myself. Like the argument is old, you know.
And like how Catcher in the Rye inspired someone to kill John Lennon or something.
Well, that's a load of horse shit, but whatever.
No, I mean that actually happened in real life.
Yes, someone shot John Lennon, but it wasn't because of Catcher in the Rye. Because like Catcher in the Rye was used to be one of the required reading for English grammar classes and English literature classes for like 9th, 10th graders, like for multiple generations. A lot of people have read Catcher in the Rye. No one, like one guy shoots somebody.
It was also responsible for the failed assassination of Ronald Reagan.
Now, see, that's bullshit. Actually, the guy, John C. Hinckley, who tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan, the reason he said that he tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan was to impress Jodie Foster, or at least Jodie Foster's character from Taxi Driver, who was a young girl being prostituted out by a pimp. So, yeah. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Any other topics?
Oh yes, this one is news is very recent. In fact, I just posted it on my Google Plus account.
All right.
Apparently, the Smash Ballad for Super Smash Bros. 4's DLC, our votes didn't act. Bayonetta was actually planned for Smash 4 DLC 2 weeks after the ballot opened, meaning she did not technically won the Smash ballot.
It wouldn't surprise me because they weren't very transparent with how they tabulated those answers.
And right now, everyone's outraged about this fact because they think their vote didn't matter.
Well, it didn't. I mean,
non-logical votes, I could say that for sure.
There wasn't, like, here's the thing. There was no real transparency. Like, the whole thing about the vote was just to basically get fans interested in the title and drum up support and to make people feel like they were invested in the title, which is cool. You know, it's fan interaction, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it wasn't going to be, you know, they basically wanted to use a character. Like, they probably looked at the list and they were like, okay, some of these characters we're not going to be able to put in because we're not going to be able to negotiate the rights, or they're going to try and hold us over a barrel for it. So we're going to use a character that's relatively kind of well known, but we can get it. And since they've been paying for Bayonetta games, they paid for the second one.
And the reason why they chose Bayonetta because she shares the same base model as Zero Suit Samus.
Yeah, I mean, you know, why make more work for yourself? I know this is shocking. People are going to be like, why aren't you up in arms about it? Because, I mean, they're a business, and they're like, you cut corners to not spend as much money on stuff. I mean, that's just as business to not spend as much money on certain things. I mean, you know, the character plays differently from Zero Suit Samus, though. It's not the same. It's not the same game, so can't get too mad.
And some of the people who are outraged about this information are suggesting suing Nintendo for lying to them.
Well, I mean, there was never any rules about, you know, certain things. I mean, personally,
and I also have to say is that their vote didn't matter only for the Smash 4 DLC. But for Smash Bros. Ultimate, their votes will indeed matter because it was mentioned in the Japanese website that characters from the Smash Ballad will be considered for a future Smash title.
Well, whatever. I mean,
So, yeah,
people are getting a lot of characters, so I can't get too angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're getting all the characters from past games. This is probably going to be Sakurai's last Smash Brothers game. So unless someone's following him around and figuring out how to make a Smash Brothers game, this is the last one. This is the end. This is the penultimate Smash Brothers game. So, I mean, hell, you're probably going to get a lot of stuff. The only thing I'm going to say is I hope the thing has a good single player
connection.
No, good single player. I don't really give a shit about online for Smash Brothers. Because when I think about the most fun I've had playing Smash Brothers, it's always been local multiplayer. Not online, but.
Well, if anything, I usually try to work with both single and.
Well, I try to play. I try to play with other people, both local and online.
So, if the shit isn't, if the single player isn't good, then I'm probably not going to get it. So, that's the rule of choice. Because everything else they've gotten down. The multiplayer is on point. The online is pretty good. Not a lot of drop matches. So now it just boils down to okay. Like the glaring issue in the last game was the single player sucked. So if they fix that, they keep everything the same, it's pretty good.
So moving on. One of my friends from Skype posted a new article from Video Game Facts talking about in regards to what really happened with the development on No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I read that article.
And I'll just post it for Jewel. I'll just post a link to it in case Jewel wants to read it herself.
Well,
apparently the forces of nature was what destroyed most of the stuff that the developers promised will be included in No Man's Sky, and they were pressured by Sony to get it released on schedule. So they had to release it with whatever they have left that survived.
That's why it basically sucked.
Yeah.
And had major stuff missing. Well, but the thing is that we already kind of knew about like that's initially we knew that happened. Like the whole like incident with the flood. Yeah, we already knew that happened. Because before Sony ever got involved, I could see them saying this needs more time. It didn't help that that guy was going up there, Sean Murray. Will you be able to play with your friends? Yeah. I mean, technically speaking, you can kind of play the game with your friends, but not. You're never gonna. The chances of you interacting if you're playing the game is slim to none. So, it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, clearly this game is not.
You do if you don't.
Well, I mean, the thing about No Man's Sky is that it's not a very No Man's Sky is not a very good game.
Clearly.
There's no like. Okay, spoiler alert for those who haven't played No Man's Sky. The entire point of No Man's Sky is that you're an alien in a suit. You mine shit, you buy and sell shit in order to upgrade your ship so that you can jump farther from jump point to jump point so that you can get to the center of the galaxy. You know what you find at the center of the galaxy? A warp hole that takes you into another galaxy. And then you start all over again. Literally, the entire game is just a continuous getting to the center of the galaxy. It resets the game board, and you start all over again. It's basically a throwback to old arcade games where you do a series of challenges to get to the end, and then it resets, and it's slightly harder. Okay?
New Game
Yeah,
Plus.
new game. You know. Now I don't have anything against that, but the thing is that No Man's Sky has no real player urgency. Like, there's no real factions to deal with.
Not real. Not real, right?
Well, the thing is just there's no real urgency. The whole point is to get to the center of the galaxy. Like, it would be cool if No Man's Sky had factions where you could join a faction. Maybe one faction has better weapons, another faction has better ships, another faction has better shields. Like, and they have little ideologies, and you can choose a faction to join that kind of helps you get to the center of the galaxy or something. But literally, all the fun you have in No Man's Sky is fun that you pretty much give to yourself. No Man's Sky, it feels like a poor man's version of Breath of the Wild. Where it's like, wow, the actual gameplay, the actual overall plot of this game, thing that's the impetus that's supposed to force you to go forward to beat this game is kind of shitty. The other stuff around it is fun, but the actual main plot sucks. Except No Man's Sky is even worse than that, because it's like...
And once you reach the end of the center of the universe, the whole process resets.
Yeah, it just resets itself, and you're back again. So it's like one of those things where it's just like, okay, this is just no, not happening. Nope.
How the world they get past the censors is beyond me. That kind of thing, right?
Well, I mean, the hilarious thing is that like Sony's like is how Sony threw Hello Games under the bus. That's the thing. They were like, well, they don't have, how could this turn out to be? Because Sony paid for that game to get made, okay? They paid for that game to get made. They paid for it to be a Sony exclusive for like, what was it, like 8 months, a year, whatever. Because it was supposed to be Sony and PC first, and then eventually it came to the Xbox One. I don't know why, because the damage had been done by then. But basically, that game was, you know, like Sean Murray kind of fucked up, pimping the game out. Because he didn't just want to. Because look, listen, if he had come out and said this gorgeous looking game that has this very interesting art style, and you know, like the problem with No Man's Sky is that it had so much potential, but the execution was just piss poor. You know, so
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It could have been awesome, but it turned out to be shit. Oh well.
Now we can move on to another recent news in regards to Retro Studios.
Yeah. The news that Retro Studios is a little rocky right now.
Right, even though we've been hearing
I
news
know some of us don't believe.
they're working on a secret project.
That's what they say. Like, here's the thing, okay? Do I think that Retro at some point over the last few years was having problems? Probably. Because no studio, I don't care how well, no business, no matter how well it's run, is going to always be on the up and up.
It's going to have a hiccup sooner or later.
It's like that old saying, into every life some rain must fall. You know, if you find a studio that every time you turn around they're always on the up and up, like something's wrong. Okay, something's wrong. It's like Pixar. Pixar makes wonderful movies. Some of their movies suck. Like The Good Dinosaur. Ugh. Cars 2. Cars 3.
Oh God.
I would say Toy Story 2.
But Toy Story 2 was actually really good.
Well, I mean, it's subjective. I don't like Toy Story. I don't like the series. But you know, it's. I mean, everyone's gonna have, you know, you know, no studio is gonna be 100%. Like even Marvel. Marvel right now has been firing on all cylinders, but they have some shitty movies. Look at Iron Man 2. or Iron Man 3.
Or
I was gonna say Iron Man 2 better than Iron Man 3.
Or
So if
Thor: The
anything-
Dark World. What'd you say?
I was saying that Iron Man 2 is a lot worse, but Iron Man 3 at least salvaged what.
I gotta disagree with you on that one. Iron Man 2 wasn't as good as the first one, but it was a solid movie. Iron Man 3, they just shat the bed because they took one of the most iconic arch villains that Iron Man had and fucked it up, which is inexcusable. And then they tried to salvage it with some little mini movie they made afterwards, but it was too late by then. They fucked it up. So, like, you know, it's like if you make a it's like if you make a Superman movie and you fuck up Lex Luthor. Like once you fuck up Lex Luthor, you can't go back and fix it after you fuck up Lex Luthor. Zack Snyder. But yeah, I mean they messed it up. I don't know what to say. I don't know where they can go from here. But I mean, my point is this: retro is probably had their down points, and now they're getting back up. So hopefully they'll be better. How's it going, Dragon Swords?
Back I guess from a while. Well, to be honest, I have had I guess a lot of plans.
Oh, that's okay. We're just doing a random cast right now. Just shooting the shit. Just talking about random stuff.
We're currently talking about the whole fake news about Retro Studios being in trouble and how Nintendo might shut them down or something.
Well, I don't think that the news that Retro Studios was having a rough patch when whoever that guy was working there. I don't think that's false. Because every studio has its ups and downs. That's just no business. Look, if you work in private industry and you go to an office and people are always happy, there's never any
tension
or unhappiness someplace. There's something wrong. Get the fuck out of there. But basically, like, is Nintendo going to shut down Retro? No. Nintendo has put too much money into Retro to shut them down. Like they've put too much money into Retro to shut them down. Will they send in another like they did? Because let's not forget, when Nintendo first took over Retro, they were fucking up, and they had to send Miyamoto and Sugimoto over to whip their asses into shape. And I mean, they might have to have that happen again. You know, Miyamoto's getting up there, but Kenji Sugimoto's still around, and you know, he might have to go over there and crack the whip a little bit, get their asses back on track. You know, I mean,
I got a question about that. They've been working on a new IP for like 7 years, or
yeah, like
that's what the rumor says.
I think they're working on a new IP. I also think that in order to keep the studio busy and doing something, like people who aren't working on that new IP, that's when they go and like work on the Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze port, or help out in Mario Kart 8, or you know, do other stuff too. I wouldn't be surprised if they're helping out on Smash Brothers. Maybe like level design and stuff like that. You know, look, listen, whatever. I mean, do I think the story is false? No. I think it was probably a few years ago. You know, whatever. But do I think Nintendo's going to shut the studio down? No, because they put too much money into Retro. Let me put it this way: the studio that made Project Hammer, that was making Project Hammer, the game that was shown off at an E3 and never came to fruition, they were fucking up royally. Way more than Retro has, because Retro's at least been putting out stuff that's making money. And you know what? Those people still have a job. I mean, yeah, it's making shitty Mario March of the Mini games, but hell, they're working, they're getting paid, they have health insurance, their kids are getting fed, they have houses.
It's cheap, it's doable until the next big game.
I mean, I think they're crappy games, but hey, look, listen, someone's buying them, But
yeah,
you can't get angry at people because they want to, like I said, I don't think the rumor is false. I just don't think that. I don't think it's a really big deal because every studio is going to have its up and downs. As a business owner, I have 3 locations. Sometimes they're up. Sometimes they're down.
Yeah.
Sometimes my staff is on point. Sometimes people are fucking up. And when that happens, you got to step in and say, hey, you got to crack the whip. Maybe the person who's in management is fucking up over there. And they got to get someone in there to crack that whip and put them into place. But you never know.
Just gotta work with what you get.
But I will tell you this much: a bad manager over an area can put you under can drag you down almost as fast as bad employees.
Yeah.
But hey, what do I know? I'm just a business owner.
So we won't, I guess, likely hear any details about that new IP, or
probably next year or any of the future directs in the following year. Who knows at this point?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think we're going to hear anything about Retro's new IP. I would love to hear more about it, but I mean, we're probably not going to hear about it. If we do hear about it, it'll be later this year, or probably next year. So, I don't know. Anyone else? Any other topics? Come on, it's random. It doesn't have to be video game news. Movies, games.
Well, I was about to ask if your work with D&D campaigns.
Okay. I started playing Starfinder, which is Pathfinder in space. It's actually pretty fun. It's actually really fun. Pathfinder is basically like, okay, if you really like D&D 3.5, but you want it to be a little bit more nuanced, then Pathfinder is for you. I didn't like D&D 4, where they turned it into like a miniatures game with like game boards and shit, and like I didn't like that. I like my traditional dice and character sheets. I don't like, because for me it was an expense thing. Because when 4 came out, I was broke, and I didn't like the concept of having to spend a lot of money on the miniatures, and because I mean the actual gameplay sets were expensive, the plot sets were expensive, the monster manuals were expensive, and then on top of that I have to like friggin' buy like special figurines and shit. I was like, no, I'm not. And I know you could cheap out and like use like little army men and shit if you wanted to be really cheap, but I mean, if you're gonna play with miniatures, you gotta do it,
Figures you don't really need, in a sense. I mean, you could use certain tokens.
Yeah.
But seriously, if you're going by grid, then they should at least provide along along with either the beginner's manual or the DM's guide.
The way I feel about D&D is, especially 4.0, is like,
And I didn't say which version, anyways.
no, with D&D in general, if you're gonna do it, like for me, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. Because when I was younger, I didn't have any money, so we just did the best we could with what we had. But now that I'm older, like including using chess pieces as character models, but as I've gotten older, I realize it's much easier just to once I started making money. It's easier. Like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right or not at all. So for 4.5, I kind of left it and went to Pathfinder because I was like, man, fuck these figurines. Now that they're back into more traditional styles of stuff, then I'm cool with it. Yeah.
Which does remind me, Pathfinder version 2 versus 5e.
Well, I don't think 2's out yet. It's about to come out, but I hope I'm looking forward to it. I mean, 5th edition is fun, but here's the difference between 5th edition I've noticed. Like in previous editions, they would like 4th edition was all about movement and placement. So when you actually flank something, like you could have your thief waiting behind a door to jump out on a guy and stab him in the back. And you could do that with positioning with the sets and stuff. Pathfinder is like more Pathfinder is almost like a throwback to 3.5, like I said, where it's like all you need is a good DM and you keep your character sheets in place. Now, because Pathfinder is a bit more up to date, I feel you can take tablets or your smartphone and you can basically download a Pathfinder app that lets you do all that stuff on the fly, which is great.
I'm actually surprised.
Yeah,
on that because I've been trying to compare the two.
Well, I prefer, just for me personally, I prefer Pathfinder because basically Pathfinder lets you like more complete, like how can Pathfinder is like Dragon Age Origins, whereas D&D right now is like
Final Fantasy.
No, 5 isn't like Final Fantasy. 5 is like Dragon Quest. Like 5 is like the DM, like what the choices you make when you create your Pathfinder character influences what your character is gonna like, has major shit that can affect you later on in the game. Whereas in the choices you make in Dungeons and Dragons 5.0 in the beginning, creating your character, really they just form what your character is in the beginning. And then what you are by the time you get high up in the levels, it just depends on what the choices you made later. Whereas Pathfinder, the choices you made in the beginning can affect you way down the line. It's like, well, I was the bastard son of a noble. Well, if you have a cool DM, he's like, well, turns out you weren't the son of that noble. You're actually a long lost prince and you got to get your kingdom back. So you can have some awesome adventures where you turn out to be like a fallen prince or something. And D&D, I mean, you can kind of do that in D&D, but it's such a set world that's kind of like, but whatever.
It's hard to move.
Yeah, D&D has so much lore behind it that you kind of have to go with it unless you create your own custom world, which is cool, but sometimes you want to play in the accepted status. Anyone else have any other topics they want to bring up? Since it got a little too DME nerdy for some people here, and they got really, really quiet.
I guess Raphael will go first with that news.
Sure. Yeah. Something I had to bring up, Rare just announced their Banjo-Kazooie merch to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the game. And most of it is just Sea of Thieves content.
I don't
know.
If only I cared. No. If only I gave a shit.
I was about to say, your give a F meter is broken.
Yeah, I'm all out of fucks left to give. I think we can all agree that it just sucks. I mean, come on. They aren't good anymore. Okay, Rare is shit these days. So I mean, there's no use. There's no use like getting all hyped up about the shit. Oh my god, this is so awesome. Not really. Rare hasn't been good for years. Like the last good game Rare made was Viva Pinata. And I'm going to let people in on a little secret about Viva Pinata. Okay? Here's the secret about Viva Pinata. Viva Pinata was supposed to be on the GameCube.
Which makes me wanna
Which makes sense
grind
when you No, it makes sense when you look at the art style. It really was supposed to be a GameCube game. And Viva Pinata was a good game. The sequel, not quite as good. It was still a good game, but it kind of went. It kind of made a left turn when it should have made a right. But overall, Viva Pinata is the last good game Rare made. Like every other thing they've done has been mediocre to okay. So
I always hear it as Piva Vagina whenever I hear the game's theme song.
I think you're just hearing things because it's Viva Pinata.
It's Viva Pinata.
Yeah, Viva Pinata. And the game has that traditional Rare sense of humor because like you create this garden to entice pinatas to come to it and do activities that earn you a little bit of candy. But if you want to get candy immediately, you take a shovel and you beat the shit out of them and kill them, and they burst and you get more candy, which you can use to buy upgrades and expand your pinata garden. It's
In short, do you want to grow your slowly, or do you want your wealth right now?
Well, I mean, like they do little activities that earns you like a little bit of candy, but it's going to take forever. So yeah, the whole point is to entice them, to build up your garden, to entice pinatas that you can then beat the shit out of with a garden implement, and then get candy, which you can use to rinse and repeat and expand it and make it bigger and get rare pinatas. It's a fun game. The first one was good. The second one was not quite as good as the first one, but you know, it was still kind of fun.
Sure, but it's still good.
Yeah, like what's his name? Like Homer Simpson with the pig barbecue. It's still good. It's still good. But yeah, it's, you know, I mean, like I said, personally, I really do like, I'm a huge fan of, like, as you can probably tell, I'm a huge fan of Rare, but Rare has been shit as of the past few years. So,
Rare the past, yes.
Yeah, Rare has been shit over the last few years. So
It's no wonder why people say it was a lot better.
I don't know. They've been kind of shitty lately. So, I mean, I wish they didn't suck, but I mean, it's Microsoft. Microsoft does not have a like basically like
It's like a clueless on a rudderless ship.
I think it's like the thing. How can I put this? The thing about it is that the thing about Microsoft, the studios under Microsoft is that, like, if Microsoft buys you, you better hope you're 1 out of 3, because basically, if Microsoft buys 6 studios, 4 of them are going to fail over time, and 2 are going to do pretty well. In the past, it was Bungie and Lionhead. Those were the 2 studios that did well. The other 4 they bought failed. So I mean, that's the sad fact about Microsoft. Like right now, like everyone's like Microsoft's like, yeah, we're building we bought all these first party studios for what? Because Forza is one of the ones that's doing the Forza studio is one of the ones that's doing well. The others, like 343 Studio sucks. I mean, let's keep it real. There hasn't been a good Halo that's come out under 343 Studios yet. Rare sucks. So that's 1 out of 3. 3 studios, one's doing well, the other 2 suck. And they just bought 3 other studios and combined 2 of them into one. So one of those studios is going to do well. The other 2 are going to probably fail. So, you know, what can I say? It's rare. Yeah, it's Microsoft. They fuck up.
No kidding there.
Anyone else?
Is the reason they're buying those studios is to become third parties?
Could be. I don't know.
Oof. Let's see. Boy.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys
I don't know. I have no idea. Anything else, Dragon?
You guys talked about Marvel.
Oh boy.
We haven't talked much about it yet.
We didn't talk about it. What?
Any?
Yep.
Did you say something?
Well, I'm looking forward to watching Ant-Man and the Wasp Friday. That's about it. Looking forward to Octopath Traveler.
Yeah. I guess.
So, anything else anyone want to bring up?
I'm looking for some any new articles we can discuss about, and so far nothing.
Well, I
Stress
mean,
yourself out too much. This is the 4th.
For those of you that are into football, Mutant League Football, Mutant League Football, which is made by the guy who made Mutant Football League for EA back in the day, that spawned. It was a relatively successful series. It was an arcade game first, and they ported it over to the Sega Genesis and not the SNES, which is weird.
Yes, now I remember. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, Mutant League Football is being brought over by the same guy who made the original back in the day, along with his little indie studio, with all the DLC and everything else. So, I mean, you know, unfortunately, I already have this game on PC, but I might double dip and get it on Switch maybe if the price is right. If the price is right. So yeah. It's Mutant League Football. That's all I gotta say. It's Mutant League Football. It's people going around beating the shit out of people and in football. It's got if you don't know what Mutant League Football is, there's a story behind it. You can go on YouTube and look up Mutant Football League, the cartoon, and it'll basically give you the overall gist. Basically, this corrupt business association was putting toxic waste in certain spots, which the adjunct corrupt business organizations, football league basically built the stadiums there because it was cheap. And one day the drums ruptured and the players got mutated along with some of the coaches and some of the staff. And but they kept on playing football, so they're mutants playing football. That's all you need. It's a pretty fun game. And I like it. Anything else?
I should bring Splatoon 2 Splatfest is going to be a race war.
What? Oh, you mean Octolings versus Inklings?
Yep. And everyone's clamoring it to be a race war, an official race war.
Well.
And right now, I'm anticipating for whatever person is upset about it for any real world comparison.
I mean, it's their choice. I mean, they're both cephalopods, so it's not really that much of a difference.
And this is to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the game's release.
I mean, I hate to say this, but for me, Splatoon 2, even though it has more modes, is not as enjoyable as the first Splatoon. Just to me. So I know everyone's going to have their own little thing about it because everyone has a thing about everything. But that's my personal opinion, and I'm allowed to have it.
Yeah,
anything else?
Oh yes, and Kirby Star Allies just announced yet another free DLC character.
And who is it? Gooey?
No, they already announced Gooey. That was from the first wave. This is the last character for the second wave.
Then who is it?
It's the painter from Kirby 64 and Kirby's Dream Land 3.
Okay. I think she has a name like Berry or Cherry or something like that.
I think it's Adeline, I believe.
Adeline?
Yeah, I think that's the correct pronunciation.
Okay, there you go. Well, whatever. I like her. Well, I mean, it's cool. I'm just mad that they nerfed my favorite ability.
And which is it the Hammer Kirby ability or the Stone Kirby ability?
No, Plasma.
Ah.
Plasma was my favorite ability, and they nerfed it. Those bastards. No, I'm joking.
Probably because it was too OP. Especially in boss battles.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Because, you know, Kirby's not a competitive game. You're just playing it just for the sake of playing it.
Right.
Anything else? Anyone else want to bring something up before we wrap things up?
Telltale's Walking Dead game seasons 1 and 2 are coming to Switch.
If only I cared about The Walking Dead. I'm just messing with people. I don't know. Anyone excited about that?
Not a fan of horror games, so yeah.
And I'm like, well, I mean, it's not really so much a walking horror game. It's more like it's like Traveler's Tales most like their normal, what's it called? Adventure games where you make choices and it like other things are affected by the choices you make, that type of thing. It's just set in the Walking Dead world, which here's the thing. The Walking Dead has zombies, but really the most horrifying thing are the human beings who are trying to survive after the war. I mean, after, all that stuff. which is weird, but whatever. Anyone else? Anybody?
Did I already mention that Crash Bandicoot's Insane Trilogy for the Switch has become the fastest selling game in the UK?
Yeah. Not really surprising. I mean, they have weird taste in games. I'm being facetious. I just really don't like Crash Bandicoot.
And people are also upset about the box art cover for Namco Museum Arcade Pack that's coming to the Switch in physical retail.
Yeah, because once again, Activision went the cheapest fucking way possible and just like gave you a box with a picture on it and no inside cover art. Just cheap.
This is Namco, not Activision.
Really? Didn't Activision publish aren't they the ones who are in charge of publishing and doing the manufacturing stuff for it? Because Namco's just doing the publishing in Japan, but the boxes and stuff, that's all up to Activision, if I remember correctly.
Here's what the cover looks like. It looks like
it's blank. It's got nothing in the inside.
Actually, it looks like a retro 50s, 60s art style.
Or am I thinking of something else? Whatever. Anyway, whatever. Anyone excited about some of the games announced that are coming out? I'm looking forward to Mega Man 11. I really am looking forward to it. I'm not being facetious. I've wanted Mega Man for a while. I like the character.
You mean coming out or will come
this year?
Out?
I think it's coming out this year, like in September.
Oh.
I'm looking forward to it. I like Mega Man.
Spider-Man has my interest. So there's that. Yeah.
Also looking forward to Sonic Mania Plus.
I'm trying to figure out why the hell it took so damn long to get a new Mega Man game out, but
apparently the reason why Mega Man 11 is in the works because Mega Man Legacy Collection sold well.
Whatever.
And does Octopath Traveler come out this week or next week?
Next week.
Okay.
So looking forward to it. Like Octopath, I'm looking forward to Octopath Traveler. I know it's kind of pricey for a retro RPG, but looks like it's got some quality on it. So I'm gonna get it just so that I can have a classical RPG to play with.
It's priced as a AAA game?
It's like $49.99. So, I mean, that's what AAA games used to be back in the day. But in the 6th gen, a AAA game was $50. So, anything else anyone want to bring up before we wrap things up?
Nope. I think we're fresh out of news.
All right. Any games anyone wishes they could talk? They wish they wanna talk about before we wrap things up.
Tech support to the rescue.
I mean, I beat Ni no Kuni 2's at least the main story part of it, so
a little easy, huh?
Thing about it though is the levels for the bosses were just oddly higher than they should have been. So
I blazed through it. I was like, this is some bullshit. For me, Ni no Kuni 2 was a fun game. I enjoyed it for what it was, but to me, it wasn't as good as the first game. Like none of the characters were as
Memorable?
interesting to me. Well, I was gonna say memorable, but interesting, memorable. Like Oliver was way more interesting than Roland and Evan and that little girl who looks like a young Princess Mononoke, whose name I forgot, and her dad. Like how you get companions in this game is kind of haphazard. Like the most interesting companions you get in the game is the engineer with the fake leg and the guy who loves the queen, but if they fall in love and have a kid, like the whole kingdom will die or some shit. Like the story in Ni no Kuni 2 is not very good. Like it's kind of like the story is kind of shit, but it's like you kind of let it go because the art style is really pretty, but the story isn't as good. At least that's what I discovered. I know some people will have their own opinion. Anyone else have anything else you want to talk about Ni no Kuni, Dragon?
You were not a fan of, I guess, the coming of age, becoming a king sort of story that it was telling?
Well, I mean, that's the story they were trying to tell, but at the end of the day, it was just like okay.
It's reaching.
That's the overall arc of the story, is that Evan is basically trying to become a better king, right? He winds up creating a kingdom and recruiting people and solving people's problems, blah, 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 blah. But the game is like rated like T for teen. So it's like never does Evan have a human reaction. Like this guy murdered his dad, just straight up poisoned him and killed him. He's like, yeah, well, we need to fight against this mad summon. I know that's not what they're called, but that's basically what they are. He's like, we need to fight this mad summon. I'm like, dude, this dude killed your dad. He's got to go. Just for familial sake, he has to die. Yeah. The game to me, and this is subjective, the game to me doesn't have as good of an overall story. Like the personal narrative for Evan, I found less interesting. And the thing is that I actually love, like, when I play RPGs, like tabletop RPGs, I love adding kingdom building and forging diplomatic connections. I like shit like that. But I just did not give a shit about Evan. Roland, really, I think Roland should have been the main character of the game because he was way more interesting. And technically, he kind of is the main character of the game. They kind of fool you. They're like, well, Evan's kind of an asshole. But what did you think, Dragon?
I mean, I really did, I think, enjoy this. Like, I guess him just, I hate to kind of say this, but compared to, I guess, a recent film that came out early this year, starts with the B and ends with the R. I think here if that film was supposed to be the main protagonist trying to be a better king, this one, I think, did it better.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You want to go with that? It's your opinion. But yeah, I found the game. For me, Ni no Kuni 2 was a fine distraction, but the game didn't have enough. Like Ni no Kuni 2 is a gorgeous looking game that has an overly simplified combat mechanics.
Simplified?
It's overly simplified. The combat mechanics in Ni no Kuni 2 is like it's like if you took the combat system from a Tales game but made it dumber. Like, because basically, you don't have the only thing you have to do in this game is make sure you're equipping better weapons and upgrading them. And then you can basically just wail on most enemies. Bosses are a little bit more difficult because they have patterns, but like normal enemies, you just wail on them and then block when you need to block. And then if you're taking damage, run away until your little what are they called, Dragon? Little creatures.
I have not played the game in a while, so
Higgledies.
Yeah.
Higgledies. Your little Higgledies throw out a healing thing to heal your ass, and then you just keep on beating the shit out of people. I mean, it's like the game's not bad, but compared to the first one, it's not good. It's not like it's not on the same level as the first Ni no Kuni. Like the first Ni no Kuni, even animation wise, it was a little bit sharper. Like when you explored the world, it felt more grand. Like, man, look at all this shit. This game's like just kind of like, and you can tell there are areas of the game where it's like there should be something here, like because like there's supposed to be some extra DLC coming out for the game, but I don't think it's ever going to come out. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But I mean, you know, if you enjoy Ni no Kuni, I'm glad you did. Anytime someone enjoys a JRPG, I'm happy because that means that they might buy another one.
I guess this is a topic we're discussing. Should JRPGs, I guess, be easier to let, I guess, newcomers in? Because I guess the JRPGs I did play, like Xenoblade Chronicles X, and well, I guess just that game. There were certain parts of it that was actually pretty difficult to really, I guess, play through.
I mean, okay, look. As a business person, I would say, yeah, the more casualizing experience to make it more accessible for, you know, someone who doesn't want to have to grind and do all that stuff is good. As a hardcore RPG person, I would say no, because that's the nature. It's kind of like this, right?
That's watering down your experience to be like, it's like trying to water down soda into sweet sugar.
Well, not just that, but think of it like this. Let's say you're playing a Mario game, right? And you've played a Mario game before, right, Dragon?
Sunshine and a certain part of Galaxy 2.
Okay, then. Yeah. So not a lot. Okay, have you played a because Mario's like the best example of this.
The side scroller 2D one?
No, you played through Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
You know how you beat it? You beat Breath of the Wild, Dragon?
The main story part of it, yeah.
The main story, okay. You know how Hyrule Castle is like a gauntlet? Like there's tough enemies in there and everything like that?
Yeah.
Okay. It would be really weird if, like, basically you get to Hyrule Castle and there's like, it's just as easy as the rest of it. You know what I mean? You'd be like, this is kind of underwhelming. Well, as someone who's been playing RPGs for a long time, like I've played games that have a good grasp of difficulty curve, and unfortunately, like for me, when they dumb down an RPG, it just feels kind of like it feels like they're being condescending to me as the consumer. Like your dumbass can't figure out how to beat this guy, because sometimes you're just gonna die. Like I recently was playing the hard mode of Star Crawlers, which is basically kind of like a Shadowrun game, except set in space, where you go around shooting, going on like missions and stuff, and getting money to upgrade your equipment, and it's a fun little game. But I mean, I've died in quite a few missions. I've had my entire party wiped out in certain fights where I was ill prepared, or I just made the wrong choices. But then I reloaded and I was like, okay, I need to try a different strategy. I mean, that's how you learn. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about gaming. In real life,
try again.
In real life, you can't say to yourself, okay, if I stick my hand into this flame, my hand's going to get burned up and I'm never going to be able to use that hand again. But in video games, you can fail and there's no real penalty. So you can learn from failure, which is how human beings learn. We learn from failure. So I don't like the concept of them casualizing JRPGs. There should be JRPGs for everyone. Like if you want to get into JRPGs, but you don't want to go through a lot of bullshit, Mario RPG, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, but what about Pokemon? You say you don't consider that as a JRPG, yet it's a baby's first JRPG.
I don't. If you wanna get into JRPGs and understand the nuances of equipping a party and understanding strengths and weaknesses and type matching, I would not choose Pokemon as that game. I would choose Dragon Quest Monsters, which is a Pokemon ripoff, but adds the added nuance of you actually equipping your monsters with items and equipment, and they take on roles like this monster's a tank, this monster's a magic user, this monster's a healer, this monster is versatile and can do a little bit of everything, more so than Pokemon, which is kind of like, I mean, Pokemon's like, well, it's like an RPG, but not. It has RPG tropes in it, but not really. But no, I don't think. Business-wise, it's a good idea for them to make RPGs that are more casual. As an RPG gamer, like core RPG gamer, it's not really, because it's doing a disservice. It's like if you make a test easier so that more students pass, that doesn't mean that they are proficient with the material. You get what I'm saying, Dragon?
I do, yeah.
If you're like, okay, kids, you have to learn your times tables up to 14, and then you find out that like 2/3 of the class can't even get it up to 8 to the 8 times tables. So you make it easy and say, okay, all you guys just have to know up to 6. Well, yeah, you're gonna have students that pass, but they don't fucking know their times tables up to a certain point. That's terrible. I mean, that's kind of a real life application, but I think it's a disservice to gamers that they aren't learning how to play harder JRPGs. Yeah, learning how to play harder RPGs. Because I really do think that that's how Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest used to be back in the day. They started you out easy, and then they gradually made it more complex. And now it's like, only Dragon Quest seems to know how to make a JRPG that has some level of complexity, no matter what iteration it's in. Like, because the first Dragon Quest was Dragon Quest 1. You had one character. It was an RPG, but you only had one character. There was no party. Dragon Quest 2, you had 3 characters. You had your main character, who was a warrior. You had a priest, or you had a paladin, and then you had like a healer / cleric / priest. Okay. So then it's a little bit more complex. Dragon Quest 3, you had your main character, and then you could create a party of characters, each with different classes and skill sets. So it was gradually getting more and more complex as time went on. You were having to invest more into learning the gameplay systems, and to learn more gameplay strategies and stats and nuance and stuff like that. But whatever, we can always look. I mean, or they can go the route of Nintendo and just take a really good RPG series and make it for 5-year-olds, like Sticker Star. Actually, that's a disservice to 5-year-olds. 3-year-olds.
Oof.
I'm sorry, Sticker Star is so bad. It's so bad.
I was gonna say, I believe you on that, and that still holds true for now.
I have never legitimately gotten pissed off at Nintendo making a game, but that game pisses me off. Anyone else? Any other topics you want to bring up?
Nope.
Anything.
I mean, I guess an interesting question would be, were a good amount of developers of Platinum games, I guess, back when they were in Capcom, also worked on Devil May Cry 3?
I think quite a few, because Shinji Mikami now works there, and he's he worked on Devil May Cry. Like Platinum is basically the most talented people at Capcom after they left Capcom.
Which says a lot about how much talent they got left when Capcom is doing certain things like Mega Man 11.
That's sad. But Mega Man 11 looks good though. I mean, it doesn't look great. It looks good. So I'm not gonna say it looks great. It does not look great. It looks good.
It's got more potential than what 9 tried to do.
Here's the thing. Mighty Number 9 had a lot of really good ideas. The execution was bad. Like, had that game been executed a little bit better, it probably would have been good. But because it was executed poorly, it did not end well.
Not to mention the commercials for it.
Anime fan on prom night.
Yep.
The commercials weren't that bad to me. The thing that kind of hurt that game was just very like the thing that hurt that game is that the quality was not very good. You know, it wasn't what it should have been, you know? And I mean, there were some design choices in Mighty Number 9 that brought it down. Like, okay, Beck couldn't wall kick, and yet you basically had segments of the game where you kind of needed that type of mobility to get around. You know, like it was a good idea. Like Mighty Number 9 was a good idea, just badly executed. You know, and you know the studio they did the best they could to make it work, but you know.
They did something all right.
You know, but I stand by that. Mighty Number 9 is not that bad of a game. It's like a C. If I had to give it a grade, it's a C. It's a C. It's a C grade game. It's not terrible. It's not great.
I was going to say the game itself is not an entire disaster, but the making of it was, well, like watching people trying to mold clay in 2 minutes.
Like I said, it wasn't as bad as people would have you believe. Like people are like, "Oh, it's terrible. It's like the worst game ever." I'm like, no. It's okay. Okay, could it have been better? Yes. Is it like, oh my god, this game offended me? Like, is this game like Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, where he talks shit to that guy before he fights him and kills him? He's like, you have insulted my family, the Shaolin Temple, and
would this game compare to Shaq Fu?
The first one or the reboot?
The first.
Oh no. Mighty Number 9 is technically, even though it's not as good as say other games, it's not a steaming pile of shit. So you know, it's not a steaming pile of dog poo poo. So at
least I was going to say this: it's not Shaq Fu, but it's not the first, but it's not Mario 3.
Mario 3 has some problems. Everyone thinks that game is really good, but it has some problems. Namely, there are too many power-ups that have no practical use in gameplay. They just look cool, like the frog power-up. It's only good for like 2 levels, and yet you can get it.
I was going to say, it's only good for water levels.
No, there's 2 levels where it makes sense to use it, and that's in levels where you're underwater. But there's levels that have water that you can't really swim in, where it's just weird. Like, there are power-ups in that game, like the Hammer Brothers outfit. It's totally fucking useless.
But they say it's the most OP power-up.
It's useless. it's literally the hit trajectory is only useful for airborne enemies and enemies that are above you. But the thing is that most of the time, the levels where you're going to hit that, you're not going to have it. And the ones that you do aren't going to have enemies that are attacking like that. It is a useless item. There are items in that game that are like, what the fuck, man? That's the problem with Mario 3. Super Mario World, I would say, is technically superior to Mario Brothers 3. Just because it doesn't have too many power-ups. The ones that it has are useful.
You're right. I probably should have compared it to Super Mario World versus Shaq Fu.
Yeah. Like one is total dog poo-poo and the other one's a good, high-quality game. But yeah, basically, yeah, it's Mighty Number 9.
I was gonna say that Mario 3 is a high-quality game, though it has its own faults in its own way.
Yeah. I'll give you a perfect example. Mighty Number 9 is like Zelda 2. It's a good idea. It's a good idea, badly executed. That's what it is. Like Zelda 2 had it been a little bit better executed, could have been a great game. But there's just some technical issues that bring it down, like the spike in difficulty after the first dungeon, the shitty checkpoints when you die. That's it. Just so there's some technical things that bring that game down. The same thing with Mighty Number 9. There's technical things that kind of like, man, if this didn't have this, it would be great. But it does. So what can I say? Oh well. Anything else? Anyone else want to?
No.
I think I'm good. And just in time for fireworks, too.
All right. Anything else? Anyone else want to?
Nope. Nothing.
No other topic anyone wants to bring us before we wrap things up? Anything anyone want to pimp out?
As I said, I'm good.
Okay, let me check the YouTube feed for a second and see if anyone left us any
items to work with.
Any questions? Nope, no questions. So I guess that's the end. Anyone want to pimp anything out before we wrap things up? Any movies anyone's like, man, you better watch this shit?
Well, unless you count Deadpool 2, I'm good.
Okay, I got a movie I saw that is actually pretty good. Ironically, and I almost felt like slapping myself for saying this, Uncle Drew, actually kind of good. It's a stupid movie, but it is fun.
Is it the one with Shaq as a
Yeah, it's got Shaq and Kyrie Irving and Reggie Miller. It's a stupid movie, but it's fun. That's all I gotta say. It's stupid, but it's fun. I enjoyed it for what it was. Anyone else got anything they want to?
Oh yeah,
Nothing.
I should talk about the social Tumblr outrage in regards to the new Overwatch character, who is a hamster.
So
basically, because the character is not some kind of black woman or LGBT woman or whatever, and instead just a hamster.
I think that's just bullshit. No, I think people getting angry about it is bullshit, and I think the argument, I mean, really, the hamster belongs to a social group that's even more misrepresented in the poorly represented in video games. The only video games I know that have a hamster in them are those shitty Hamtaro games. And they're shitty.
But aren't those created by Nintendo as well?
Yeah, and I stand by them. They're shitty. Hamtaro games are garbage. They are absolute garbage. The only word I can use to describe a Hamtaro game is hot buttered ass. That's right. That's right. I said it. They're terrible. Like, there's some games that I really want Nintendo to bring over to America. There's some games I wish would stay in Japan forever. Hamtaro is one of those games. Bring over more Starfy games. Leave Hamtaro's ass in Japan. I do not want to play a game as a fucking hamster that just goes around going on adventures and shit.
Well, sorry for you, because there hasn't been a new Starfy game since the one on the DS.
I know. I have that one. It's really good. But do another Starfy game. Look, get HAL Laboratories. Look, they're finished. I know you got some people working on DLC for Return to Dreamland, but look, I mean, the Star Allies. But look, listen, here's a novel idea. Make another Starfy game. Or hell, even better, you want to make Starfy popular? Make a Kirby game where he teams up with Starfy. They confuse together, and Starfy turns into an airship, like a little starfighter, and Kirby can ride him like his starship his warp starship. It would work. Starfy is an alien who lives on a water planet. Kirby is an alien that lives in Dreamland. They could team up, fight the ultimate evil.
Not without beating the snot out of DDD during the journey, at least.
Yeah, you'd have DDD pop up, Wario popped up. Wario popped up in the Starfy game, so why not throw him in there again? Yeah. I'm here to steal all your shit. I don't think so. Oh, it's not fair. Here's what I wanted to mention. Damn, I was talking about people forgetting things. I have a pitch for a Wario game. An actual Wario game. That's right, folks. Wario.
Not Waluigi. Wario.
Yeah. To hell with Waluigi. Wario. Wario beating the shit out of people. Wario. So here's the gist of the game, right? Here's what I was thinking. This is a game that does not take place in the WarioWare universe. So Wario is not this asshole who goes around stealing people's ideas to make games so that he can make money. Wario in this game, this is set in the Wario Land universe. So basically, this is where Wario stole everybody's treasures, stole Captain Syrup's treasures and treasures from other places, and locked them up in his castle.
What else do you expect a money grabbing little thief?
Well, I mean, Captain Syrup did steal those treasures in the first place. He just liberated them into his own pocket. I mean, is it really theft if you steal from another thief? I don't know.
That's a tricky question.
I mean, can you report that to the police officer? I stole this $50 million from the mafia, and they stole it back from me.
That's a tricky question, because the moment you open your mouth, you're kind of telling on yourself.
Well, technically speaking, according to the law, you cannot if you are someone who is in a criminal act, like a drug addict, and someone steals from you, you can report that someone stole from you, even if you yourselves are committing a criminal act. Although they'll get you for your act too, but the other person who stole from you is also liable for an illegal act. Technically speaking, it's one of those technicalities in the law. But anyway, so anyway, here's my pitch. Here's my pitch for a Wario game. Wario basically is worried that someone's going to steal his treasures that he's accumulated over the years. And he's like, look, I can't keep it in my vault. I've got to find some place to keep this stuff safe. So he's watching TV late at night, and he sees this commercial that almost seems to speak just for him, just to him, where it's like, yeah, this is the world's dark bank, and we've held the treasures of some of the most wealthiest and biggest expensive things in the world. Royalty, dignitaries, really rich people. It's like, look, if you have a collection that you don't want anyone to ever steal, you can you store it in our vaults, and we'll make sure no one ever even looks at it. So basically, Wario's like, yeah, that's perfect. So he calls up and he goes to the bank, and they move his treasure into their vault, and he's like, yeah, now my stuff is safe. And he lays down to sleep, and he realizes, wait a second, I can't go and look at it anytime I want to. So he sneaks into the vault, and he discovers that the dark vault is not what everyone thinks it is. Everyone thinks it's just, this super the dark world bank. It's this super bank where you can keep your shit really safe. It's really a trap where there's this evil being that basically steals people's treasures and hoards them until they die, and then it's theirs. So
Wario fell for it.
Well, he's greedy, but he also wants to keep his shit safe. So Wario breaks in, he gets caught, and he gets sent to jail. And that's where the game proper opens up, because he's in jail. He's got to get a crew together to break into the Dark World Bank. And who is this crew? Why, other characters from Wario games. So you get that weird, ugly ass archaeologist from Wario Land 4. You get Captain Syrup, who may or may not be who may or may not be an ally. You get this really buff Amazon chick who wants to be a ballerina, but she looks like a man. Like, she does not have the feminine form of a ballerina whatsoever, but she really wants to be a ballerina. And I don't know, maybe a fourth character. And you have to break out of this prison and go around getting Captain Syrup's crew back together and stuff, and like all these little side quests. And the format of this game would not be a traditional Wario game where it's a platformer. I'm thinking make it something akin like a Paper Mario, or a Super Paper Mario to be more precise, where you've got like abilities and stats and stuff so you can level up. That'd be cool to me. That's it. Your guys' thoughts?
Sounds like you're plotting a group up that really would be a hit.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I actually like it.
And your thoughts, Dragon Sword?
Only played a Wario game once, a little bit, and I think it was Wario Land on the Game Boy.
That's a good game. Wario Land is a good game. The first one is like, the first one feels like a clone of Super Mario Land, except Wario is a lot slower. It's a lot slower of a game. Wario Land 2 is better. Because Wario can't die. He can only lose money. That's his weakness. And he has different transformations. Like, if he gets squashed, he can like kind of float in the air a little bit, kind of like glide a little bit. If he eats a donut, he turns into Fat Wario, where he's basically invulnerable, but he can't jump. And if he does jump, when he hits the ground, if it's like crack blocks, he'll break through it. Yeah. There's if Wario gets stung in the face, his head swells up and he flies. If Wario gets
zombied,
yeah, he gets zombied. In the original Japanese, in the forest, there are these fish that throw balls at you that like daze Wario. But in the Japanese version, they're not throwing balls; they're throwing beer, and he gets them drunk. Which I think they need to bring that back, because Wario looks like he can throw back some drinks.
Some, I would say a whole barrel.
Yeah, all the drinks. But yeah, I love a Wario. I'd love a Wario game to return. Just because I'm one of those guys. I really like Wario. I think Nintendo's kind of been like
safe with him.
Well, I mean, the WarioWare games aren't terrible, but I mean, at this point,
because the WarioWare games are kind of a safe shot.
Well, I mean, they're not safe. I mean, some of them are weird. Like a game where some dude's picking his nose. You've got Dr. Kilgore with his insane experiments, 9-volt. I mean, Jimmy with his toupee. Like, I mean, they're all like, it's like really WarioWare is just a whole bundle of what the fuck. But I would love a more traditional Wario game instead of a bundle of what the fuck. You know, just saying.
Well, here's hoping that the rumors about the virtual Wario Land remake is true, so you'll get your wish.
I'd be happy with just them porting it over. Just instead of it being with a red, that red shit that we had back on the Virtual Boy. Because I have a Virtual Boy, I have that game for the Virtual Boy, and Jesus Christ, like my eyes can't take that red.
All that red is blinding.
I can't take it. Like, my eyesight is bad enough. I don't need more red. But I would love to see that game ported over, maybe in black and white.
Or maybe an actual 3D with for the 3DS.
They could do that. I mean, that wouldn't be bad.
That was the original purpose of the Virtual Boy 3D experience.
Well, kind of, but not really.
So, what kind of colors would the Virtual Boy would have used to prevent any eye restraints?
I don't know.
If you ask me, they needed some kind of color variations that are cold toned. Like, red is a fire tone, right?
I would have gone with blue, because blue is a lot more
eye friendly.
Yeah, blue is less eye strain, but to be fair, it was never going to be good because the technology for virtual reality, even now, is still not
iffy.
Is still not where it needs to be. Like, you're still getting eye strain, even with it's not all red and shades of red. It's still not very good. So,
Yeah, and that's before thinking about motion sickness and control schemes.
I don't know. I've seen games that made me sick to my stomach, and they weren't even in 3D. It was like, this is making me a little queasy. Not like I'm not puke sick, but like, it's kind of not doing it for me. But everyone has their own. Everyone's entitled to their own things. Anyone else? Nothing? Okay, then. Pimp out what you want to pimp out, and then we'll wrap things up.
Well, I'm all set right now. What about you, Pinks?
Well, I just posted my usual Happy Independence Day thread and whatnot. So that's all I had to say.
All right. Dragon?
Don't really have any plans at the moment. So, yeah.
All right. This is Mr. Red Fox here. I'm going to try and do some live game streaming in the future during the week. It wouldn't be long. It'll be like hour-long stream. Once I get everything together, I'll try and do that. So, yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you for joining. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. If you think other people would like to hear this podcast, don't hesitate to share it, to mention it, to spread the word of the BS Busters. Thank you for joining this impromptu 4th of July podcast, also titled 4th of July Espy. And have a good 4th. Enjoy, have fun, arrivederci, and peace.
Responsibly.